Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. Incredible drama at Croke Park. Monaghan progress to the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship semi-finals. The second time since 2018 and the second time, I believe, in 80 years they've been in an All-Ireland semi-final. Absolutely incredible stuff, incredible drama. It goes the distance, it goes the penalties. And I think, first of all, commiserations to Armagh. That's the third penalty shootout that they have lost in the space of a year. I mean, that is just heartbreaking stuff from an Armagh perspective. And for any Armagh fans who are watching this, Jesus, I don't know how you do it. And, that must be a very difficult one to take, because for it to happen once, for it to happen twice, 3 times, 3 penalty shootouts Armagh have lost. And look, at the same time, as much as you can feel sorry for Armagh, I do think at the same time, there is a common denominator, and they have lost 3 penalty shootouts. As much as you can call it luck, there is an element of the fact that, look, they have lost 3 penalty shootouts in a row. And to be fair, you think of Armagh, they could have won an Ulster title and they could have been in an All-Ireland semi-final. It's such fine margins. And with Armagh, it's a heartbreaking one, absolutely heartbreaking one. But for Monaghan, fair play to them. And you know what? It epitomises Monaghan that they won this game on penalties, because this is what Monaghan do. That's why I backed Monaghan to win this game. And to be honest with you, look, it could have easily went the other way, obviously. When Rian O'Neill scores that point in the final minute of extra time and injury time, you're thinking, right, Armagh have done this. They've got over the line. They've got the victory. They've got what they, came to do. But Monaghan just never lie down. They always find a way, and they're the masters of, I suppose they're just the masters of finding a way, grinding their way through these tight, close games, and they found a way to do it again, which is absolutely remarkable stuff. Conor McManus comes on, makes a huge impact, scoring 3 points. But yeah, extraordinary drama at the end. In fairness, it wasn't a great game. 4 points in extra time probably tells you all you need to know. 2 of them actually came in injury time. And that was mainly because Armagh had gone in front and, Monaghan had to go for it. I think both sides were very nervous, very cagey. Shooting was very poor, over 10 wides for Monaghan. Armagh's shooting was very poor at times as well. Neither side wanted to take the risk. They were just keeping the ball for large parts, waiting for the opening, waiting for the scoring chance. Rian O'Neill only scored 1 point from play. Armagh's top scorer from play was actually Aidan Forker. He hit 3 points. And although he plays as a forward with his club, he is playing as a defender. So it was surprising there from both sides that they just didn't go for it. And I felt like there was moments in the game where either side possibly could have, took the initiative. I thought at the start of the second half, it looked like Monaghan, gained a bit of ascendancy, and it looked like they were going to go on top. But Armagh kept battling back, and it's mad. There was never more than a 2-point lead in this game. There was never more than a 2-point lead. Actually, there was never more than a 1-point lead, I don't think. So just mental, absolutely mental. And it goes down to the war. It goes down to penalties. Few mad decisions, obviously, in this game as well. I thought the black card that was given to Monaghan towards the end of the game was definitely not a black card. No way was that a black card. I mean, that's a yellow, a free at most. And, if we're going by the letter of the law, which a lot of referees do, the letter of the law says a black card should be a deliberate pull down or it should be a trip. And that was neither. It was a hit, obviously, on the stomach. It was definitely a free. It was definitely a foul. But I don't think that's a black card. I think Monaghan were a little bit hard done by there. And then the Hawkeye situation again, I'm going to be honest, and I'll probably save this for maybe the podcast on Monday or Sunday or whenever we do it. Hawkeye failing again, and maybe there's a bit of justice done with the fact Monaghan won it. Look, we don't know if that was a point or not. From the replays, it was hard to know. It looked like it might have been wide, to be honest with you. But at the same time, Hawkeye needs to go. Hawkeye has to go now. Get rid of it, scrap it, get rid of it altogether, because it doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? We can't have this anymore. Do you know, we just have to rely on the umpires to get the decisions right. You can't rely on Hawkeye. It has to go. Especially All Ireland hurling semi-finals where Hawkeye is kind of needed more, because it's obviously, it's a smaller ball. The game's played much faster. It's harder to see points go over the bar for umpires. So yeah, I don't know. I think Hawkeye has to go. Hawkeye has to go, in my opinion. But yeah, there was another decision at the end of the game as well where Ethan Rafferty won a kick out. Punched the ball forward and the ref gave a free the other way. Definitely not a foul. Now, to be fair, Armagh, they did score a couple of minutes after that anyway. So, I don't know, would that have mattered as much? I don't know, maybe Monaghan would have equalised anyway. But But yeah, look, in the end, like it is what it is. Like I don't think either side really deserved to win the game or lose the game. I don't think either side were at their best. I think there was a lot of nerves, there was a lot of caginess, and there was a lot of restrictiveness in both sides were overly cautious, and neither side really wanted to take the risk. But Monaghan, to give them credit, they just don't bow down, do they? They just find a way time and time again to pull it out. And for Armagh, it is heartbreaking because there was a moment, obviously, in that penalty shootout where it looked like it was gone. They obviously miss, they're the team who misses first. And then Ethan Rafferty makes a save. And you're thinking, right, okay, maybe it's back on. And then to lose it again, do you know what I mean? Like, heartbreaking stuff there from an Armagh perspective. And like, it's a hard one to judge Armagh. Like, and obviously we'll judge Armagh's season maybe in a review show when the All-Ireland Championship is over. But like, I think ultimately what's cost Armagh, in my opinion, ultimately, and obviously you can look at all the penalty shootouts, it's just been that decision making in the final third that's let them down, and decision making in general. I think they've lacked composure, they've lacked a bit of mental strength at times. I think mentality, is ultimately, and discipline ultimately, what has probably cost them in the long run. And like even that free at the end, like Rory Grugan putting his hands around Conor McManus, like I know McManus there, like to be fair, he's probably going to get the shot off and score anyway, a player of his quality. But you don't know, there might have been a covering defender there. He mightn't have took the opportunity on. Like, so, I don't know. I just thought, like, Armagh have just made bad decisions in big moments, and ultimately that's cost them. But you look at it at the same time and think, they've been losing on penalties. 2 of their 3 championship games this year have been on penalties. And I've said multiple times before on this show and match reactions, like, I don't agree with penalties as a right way to decide a game of Gaelic football. I don't think it's, fundamental skill of Gaelic football, kicking the ball off the ground, especially for outfield players. It's only ever done during frees. Do you know what I mean? So, golden score or just a replay. Why can't we have the replay in Croke Park next week? Do you know that way? Like, would have made a lot more sense, in my opinion. Like, Croke Park next week, all right, you've got the All-Ireland quarterfinals on, but just have a double header. Like, is Galway Limerick going to sell out in Croke Park next week? I don't think it is. So, have a double header. Like, I'm sure both teams would be okay with it. So there we go. I know you have the Taoiseach Cup final next week as well, to be fair, but actually, I think that's on the week of the semi-finals, isn't it? But I don't know. I'll be curious to know what people think of that. But yeah, mental game indeed, and crazy stuff, wasn't it? Like, just towards the end, you feel so bad for Armagh. But at the same time, they've been here, like they had the lead. They had the lead against Derry in the, going into the final of extra time. And a question I'd wonder for Armagh fans, and should Kieran McGeeney, should he have took Ethan Rafferty off and brought another? I know Blaine Hughes isn't there anymore, so forgive me for not knowing who the backup Armagh goalkeeper is. But like maybe have an actual goalkeeper in goal, because at the same time, like Ethan Rafferty he's a midfielder, like he's an outfielder with his club, and you see that in the way he plays, and that's obviously why he is the number one, because of his kickouts and because of, he can play as that extra man, that +1 in Armagh's attack. But like, he's not a great shot stopper. Like, that penalty as well was more or less straight at him. Do you know that way? Like, and there was a few of them I thought he could have got a hand to. To be fair, one thing we would say is that the quality of the penalties was brilliant, wasn't it? Like, it wouldn't be out of place in a big World Cup final or anything like that. Like, that's quality penalties. And yeah, there we go. Dublin, as Gray says, this was the best game all season. Don't know about that. The most exciting game of the season. I mean, an exciting finish, but I don't know if I would say the most exciting game of the season. I think the most exciting game of the season, I don't know what has been the most exciting game of the season, really. Like, but I wouldn't put it this game. Exciting at the end, don't get me wrong. Incredible drama, but I don't think it was, 14 points apiece after 90 minutes in the end, 90 plus, like nearly 100 minutes of Gaelic football. Like, that's poor enough. Rory says we'll be doing a watch along for Dublin and Mayo. I will be at the game, so won't be doing a watch along, but there we go. Should be a cracking game. There was never more than a 1 point lead. Yeah, absolutely mental. Was at it, disgraceful. Hawkeye, yeah. I mean, and look, in the end, Monaghan won the game, so it's one of them things that, will get brushed under the radar. And that's the problem, is that when these Hawkeye issues have come about, that, a lot of the teams actually have gone on to win. Do you know what I mean? Like, you think of the Galway-Derry situation. Galway obviously got awarded a point, went on to win. It happened in the Dublin-Galway game in the Hurling Championship. It finished as a draw. It didn't matter anyway. Like, because if Dublin had won, they wouldn't have even been in the Leinster final. How the Leinster round robin worked. And again, on this occasion, Monaghan still won the game anyway. So, the GA will probably turn a blind eye to it. But I think Hawkeye needs to be scrapped. Like, get rid of it before tomorrow, because like you can't have these situations, in my opinion. Like, honestly, I feel if Armagh had won the game, you could have argued that, Monaghan could have protested for a replay, because like at the end of the day, like that could have been over the bar. Like, so I don't know, but madness really. On far says, great entertainment for a neutral, not the highest quality on show, but one hell of a scrap. The shot in the arm, this championship is needed, I suppose. Penalties are cruel. They certainly are cruel. They certainly are. And you feel sorry for Armagh, but at the same time, it's the third time they've been there. I'm sure Geezer had the lads practicing penalties, in the build-up. They had a 2-week break, so there was a time period where they were practicing penalties. And to be fair, the majority of their penalties were really good. Do you know that way? Like, I think probably what was the difference in the end is that Rory Beggan is a natural goalkeeper. Like, he's brilliant with his feet, obviously, and he's arguably better than Ethan Rafferty, with his feet. But he's a good shot stopper as well. He's a great overall goalkeeper. Like, he has the full package. Does Rafferty have that? I'm not sure. And that's, and it's harsh. Like, at the end of the day, it goes down to these things. I don't think Rafferty necessarily had a bad game or anything of any nature. And I think he's been brilliant for Armagh for the majority of the season. But it's just one of them things, isn't it? It's fine margins. And I don't know, for Armagh and for Kieran McGeeney, like, it's just, it is a tough one to take. Like, it must be, and the problem for Armagh is that the more penalty shootouts they get, if this happens again next year, the more, like, you have that, like, it becomes a bit like with Mayo, where Mayo, there's that thing where it's another All-Ireland final defeat, another All-Ireland final defeat, one after another. And it does, it plays in your mind, it definitely does. It's like anything in life that keeps happening that's obviously not good, like it does play in your mind, and you're thinking, geez, what do I have to do to fix this? And for Armagh, it just keeps happening, and it's like trauma, that way? It sticks in your mind, and the pressure is there. And in fairness, I think Armagh, like, done very well on the penalty shootout. They only missed 2 out of 9 penalties. So it's very harsh, isn't it? But it just is what it is, I suppose. Denise says it's easy for us to say that it's easy to stop penalties. Yeah, look, it is. And look, I'm obviously not a goalkeeper by any stretch of the imagination, and a lot of them were very, very good penalties. Maybe if you had a top class goalkeeper, they wouldn't have saved that. But like, Rory Beggan made 2 saves, who is a natural goalkeeper, and Ethan Rafferty didn't, who isn't a natural goalkeeper. Do you know that way? Like, so that's just the way I sort of look at it. If you're trying to break it down, but again, I'm looking at you're talking about like people talk about the smallest margins, like, and that is the smallest margin. Do you know that way? And does that mean Armagh need a new goalkeeper next year? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, you keep Ethan Rafferty, but I'm just thinking, could he have changed the goalkeeper before the penalty shootout? Could he have made a substitute? Is that the right way to do it? Does that knock the confidence then of Ethan Rafferty? I don't know. Like, we've seen it happen obviously in soccer before, and it hasn't always worked, in fairness. So I don't know, but yeah. Jack says, who would Monaghan want to play now? Yeah, I mean, look, obviously they could draw. They could play either Dublin or they could play anyone, I think, couldn't they, Monaghan? They couldn't play Derry if Derry were to win. So you're looking at either Kerry or the winner of Dublin Mayo. Could play Cork if Cork win. I think realistically Monaghan would probably want Cork to win tomorrow and then draw them. Do you know that way? Like, because I think, Cork, if Cork beat Derry, I think they are one of the weakest sides left. I know I've picked up Cork quite a lot, but you're down to the final 4, and look, Kerry are in brilliant form now. And I think, they're going to take some stopping. But look, one thing about Monaghan is that they won't lie down. And I'd be fairly confident if Monaghan played Kerry, I'd fancy Kerry to beat Monaghan, but I wouldn't fancy it to be the same way it was today. I think Monaghan would be a lot closer, and I think they would stay in the game. And look, you have to give a huge amount of credit to Vinnie Corey. Like, Monaghan were wrote off by everyone coming into this season, including me, obviously. I was certainly part of that group that felt that they would get relegated from Division 1. They stayed up, and now they're in an All-Ireland semi-final. And like, that's the thing with Monaghan, is that they just don't lie down, and they find a way. And they're a dangerous side. Like, Jack McCarron was very good. Gary Mohan was very good as well. Aidan Forker was very impressive, obviously, for Armagh. Andrew Murnan had one or two bright sparks. But yeah, like it's the finest margins. Like, you know, you can't really, like, can you really say a team won this game? I don't know if you can, but in the end, it goes down to penalties. Monaghan scored more penalties than Armagh, so that's, you know, that's ultimately what it goes down to. Oren says Rafferty was moving before players got near the ball every pen. Yeah, and I seen like he was sort of, there was a few times he was leaving like a big space, you know, to try play a bit of mind games. You know, just didn't quite work out in the end. Has to be a mental thing for Armagh when it goes to a penalty stage. Yeah, like you would say that, but at the same time, like it kind of is a mental thing. But at the same time, like they scored the majority. They only missed 2 out of 9 penalties. You know that way, like, so it's just fine. It's fine margins, and in the end, like you could bear down to the players who are taking the penalties, the goal. You know what I mean? But then again, I think the game was there to be won for Armagh normal time. But at the same time, I think the game was there to be won in normal time for Armagh. So yeah, mad stuff. But there we go. Conor McCarthy was brilliant too. He was very, very good game. We'll just run through the scores maybe in total before we finish up. So Gary Mohan with 3 points, Jack McCarron with 2, Micheál Bannigan with 2, Conor McCarthy with 3, Conor McManus with 4. Just looking at the scores on Score BO there, so we'll go with them as a reliable source. Andrew Murran with 2 points, Rian O'Neill with 6 points, Rory Grugan with 2, Aidan Forker with 3, Ross McQuillan with a point. And that was the thing, like, you know, obviously Paddy Andrews was saying that sort of before extra time. They only scored 2 points from play, in terms of their forward line, 3 points from play maybe in total. Like, so do you know that way? Like, that's just that's probably not good enough to win most games. And look, it was nearly good enough to win this, but there we go. Dwyer stuff till the penalties. It was fairly, you know, boring. You were kind of watching it like, you know, going into injury time, it was just 2 points in 20 minutes of football. Do you know what I mean? Like, mental. You know, crazy. But look, the end of extra time was eventful. I suppose another thing worth mentioning as well is could Armagh had a free right at the end of normal time for, I think it was Conor Turbot who got a big hit on the shoulder. Like, I thought, to be fair, it was actually fair. But it looked like the referee actually didn't know what decision he was going to make, because he didn't give a decision until a couple of minutes later. And obviously Geezer wasn't happy about that. Like, that's the thing where Armagh, it's just the finest margins. Like, you would have seen other refs probably give that, but yeah. But there we go. Denise says, if you're pushed to predict the score from Mayo v Dublin, what would it be? Oh God, I don't know. Like, I predicted Mayo to win the game. Obviously hope I'm wrong. But yeah, no, maybe Mayo 215, Dublin 116, something like that. Maybe a little bit less, but I don't know. We'll see obviously what happens. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. And cheers to anyone who tuned in. Commiserations to any Armagh fans. Seen plenty obviously in Croke Park at the Kerry Tyrone game, which feels like an absolute age away now. Yeah, you know, plenty of fans were there enjoying themselves. The Monaghan fans. There was a lot of Monaghan fans there, actually. I'd say Monaghan probably had the most support out of anyone. And fair play. Like, I think I've seen a comment from someone who said Monaghan were bringing 20,000 to Croke Park. Yeah, definitely looked like that. Like, they definitely looked like they had the majority of the support in Croke Park. And obviously, when you see the vlog that'll be out in a few days' time, you'll see all the Monaghan fans there, because they were there in their numbers. But yeah, anyway, we'll wrap this up here. Cheers to anyone who tuned in. Congratulations to Monaghan, All-Ireland semi-final. And for any Monaghan fans who are watching, like, let me know, what do you think is possible now for Monaghan? Could Monaghan, could you win the All-Ireland? You know, you're in a semi-final. You're only 2 wins away, essentially. And what's the, you know, like, you could look at it as bonus territory, but at the same time, you've got great players. And, you know, I think you're more than capable of, you know, troubling a Dublin or Mayo. Kerry, I think, will be your toughest test if you drew them. You know, if you can't play Derry, so if they were to beat Cork, but if Cork were to beat Derry, look, I think Monaghan Cork's an even game, and Monaghan could very well fancy themselves. So yeah, look, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the All-Ireland semi-finals, and obviously the draw and everything else. I think that happens maybe on Sunday night or Monday morning or something like that. But Yeah. Cheers, anyone who tuned in. Like, subscribe, and we will see you all later.